Hello and welcome to another episode of the Kids Media Club podcast. Hope everyone was bobbing along to our theme music there. Welcome to the pinnacle of your week, or maybe just the highlight of my week. How's everyone doing?
Good, Andy.
The equivalent of the town for the kids' media.
Yes.
And we
And have
mention that every
on a
single
t-shirt.
episode.
Absolutely.
Quote unquote. Oh yeah, it's good to be back, you guys. I know I've had a couple of weeks off, so thanks for holding the fort.
No, we missed you.
We
Missed
you.
the Irish brogue. The Irish is back just in time for Paddy's Day. Yeah, really, really great to be chatting. I mean, in terms of things that are hitting hot at the moment, like one of the posts that I'm misguidedly timed on my LinkedIn. I scheduled it because I was not going to be on time zone. And then when I logged on, I was like, oh, whoa, it went nuts. Was about Miss Rachel. So Miss Rachel hit Netflix at the end of January. So very much in that kind of Coco Melon fashion of like YouTuber, kind of compilated content, whack it on original. There. I don't believe so.
No.
I don't, the people say that to me about people say that to me about Coco Melon sometimes. I'm like, you know what? I don't watch enough Coco Melon to tell you if this is new or not. I just don't. So hit quite well. It hit Netflix at the end of January. So I've been tracking various metrics on it. And my post was about the fact that it missed the US Nielsen top 10, or the US Nielsen ranking. Well, it's kind of a top 10, it's kind of a top 30, depends on what way you dice it.
Would the expectation be that it was going to hit the ranking?
On a surface level, I thought this should have a shot. I mean, I feel like Miss Rachel is a pretty established brand, established YouTube IP, like hot, broad audience base, as in like everyone knows about her, that's in preschool, appreciated by parents, very, I'd say, like identifiable, if you know what I mean. Like
yeah.
When you see her head pop up on a thumbnail, be it YouTube or Netflix,
it's Miss Rachel.
You know what you're getting. You know it's her. She's iconic.
Yeah.
Rachel is iconic. So I was kind of like, I thought like with that kind of skin in the game, she had a shot at hitting the acquired top 10, and she missed out on it, and missed out on it again this week. Which is interesting. I mean, the thing is, what she had done, which kind of confused me a bit, was she had featured a few times in the Netflix Global Top 10. Now, I'm not 100% clear on what markets she's in. I know she's definitely in the US, but I don't believe she's in many, 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 many markets. It's definitely not a global title for Netflix.
Yeah.
So interesting to see her pop in the Global Top 10, but in the Nielsen rating, which is essentially a pure US metric that she didn't hit.
Which begs the question, is it, I mean, obviously we can dive into why we think that might be, but did Netflix give it as big a push as they might have done?
That's the age-old question. And that is honestly that one of the hardest things to quantify in streaming. Like, I don't even know how the platforms are doing that internally, because, in linear, at least, you can be like, well, I was on at 6 o'clock in the morning. So I was on at, when we used to get those complaints regularly at Disney, I'm at that slot time, it's not good enough. So like in linear, it was quite clear if you had it, like your time slot, the number of slots you had a day, your lead in, lead out. Like there's certain things that are very clear in terms of like what audience flow you were getting before you got any promotion or marketing.
Yeah.
That from a streaming platform perspective is a lot less clear.
And even with the promotions, how do they measure the promotions for a show on Netflix?
Well, I think Netflix would make the point that they don't. Well, if you believe what they say, they don't promote shows allegedly. They let the trending top 10 is one of the key pieces of real estate on the platform, and they let that do its organic thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have a tendency there. So there is some things that they have done and some things that have happened that would lean to suggest that. Like, I don't think you don't get a Squid Game and like a random pop of local success, a Baby Reindeer maybe, if you're gaming the trending algorithm.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't have that. And they've had many, it's not uncommon for them to have a sort of breakout hit. So that would give me reason to believe that they're not gaming the trending algorithm.
Although what I
So-
would say on the Squid Games and the Baby Reindeer examples is I think those both benefit. My understanding of the way the Netflix algorithm works, through talking to some people that
Familiar with the matter.
and are familiar with it, is that something like Baby Reindeer would have caught Netflix by surprise, because the algorithm, effectively, because it was watched a lot within a small area, so the UK,
Yeah.
that it was watched a lot within the UK. That meant that if those same number of people had watched it all across the world during that period, it wouldn't have got picked up by the algorithm and really got driven into the algorithm. But because the UK is one of the areas that Netflix uses to feed into the algorithm, because it hit in the UK, it then got promoted in everyone else's algorithms around the world. So it kind of needed to catch fire within a small area to then
Catch
explode.
fire in a niche to like.
And
Yeah.
it's much harder for a US YouTube centric IP to cut through in the US, because
Exactly,
even though
exactly.
she's huge,
Yeah.
given that the US is so big.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and sorry, what you describe, I believe, is what happened with Squid Game 2. It started catching in South Korea and then, built out to other markets and went beyond there. So that concentration of interest is yeah, it's a good point. I mean, there's also
weirdly favors kind of almost more identifiably local content. So something like Miss Rachel is maybe kind of has a broader appeal and doesn't fit within that.
Yeah, true. There's a few other theories going as well. I think people are saying, audiences are just used to turning to YouTube for Miss Rachel. They're not used to turning to Netflix for Miss Rachel, and
Difficult to change habits.
And particularly, like we're talking, like CoComelon launched on Netflix June 2020. That's 5 years ago. The inroads that YouTube have made into the TV since then has been kind of significant. So that was maybe something to consider. Other things people have pushed out and had responded on that post was like, the variety of what Miss Rachel offers is there's quite a spectrum, whereas CoComelon, it's a bit more of a focused offering, right? Get. Like it's nursery rhymes or bust, whereas Miss Rachel, it's more, she does a few different formats and all that kind of stuff, and a few different like angles on learning. And I think there's, even age appropriate type, well, if you've got a 6-year-old, start here, and if you've got a 3-year-old, start here kind of thing, which are two quite different kids. So the fact that, a limited amount of content of hers wouldn't cater to that variety was maybe an issue.
Do you know how many episodes were made available?
It was 4 or 5 done in like that. I think that longer form, format. So yeah, like an interesting one. I definitely think she'll build, and I would also say like the Nielsen top 10 is not the gospel, right? Like, it needs to be looked at. Bluey was definitely well below that for many years before it started popping, and obviously then it started popping off. But I think this type of show is more of a build. I think that there's 4 episodes at around 30 to 50 minutes kind of each. I think there's an opportunity for her to build. I think probably playing a little bit more with the content formats is something to be considered. I mean, I think those CoComelon episodes really showed like how compilated YouTube videos can actually work in a premium streaming environment. But I guess because CoComelon, like we said, is kind of one format really, and that was more of a thing for him.
There's a big difference between 5 years ago and today, right?
Yeah. So, because do you think in some ways, thought it was interesting the point you made as well about the fact that they were used to seeing that content on YouTube and they didn't necessarily transfer to expecting to see it on Netflix. Do you think that's changed? So since the CoComelon compilation, do you think people come to Netflix with an expectation that it's going to be different content from the stuff that they're used to watching on YouTube?
I think it works more the other way, that people just don't have if people go to YouTube for something, they're not going to go looking for it somewhere else. They know where they can get it. They know where it's at scale. Like, why would I go looking for this in somewhere else? I think,
and in particular, the use of YouTube on connected TVs, which is increasing at a vast rate. So if they're accessing it on the same device as they would normally go to Netflix, but it's there because they've always watched Miss Rachel on YouTube. It's already queued up
Yes.
in a way that they're familiar with, there is little impetus then to go and find it on Netflix, I'm guessing.
And honestly, I think that's like one of the biggest opportunities for YouTube is like if they were able to clean up their act a bit as regards kids and the type of content footprints kids are exposed to on connected TVs. Like,
yeah, I hear rumors that they're working on their interface to make it more TV like.
Do you want to hear the sound of eyeballs rolling? It sounds like this.
But yeah, I've read a couple of things that said that they're looking at how they make it more TV like, obviously, which makes sense.
TV like is totally, and like you can see it in the way they've pulled in the different accounts and that kind of thing. Like it's more like a Netflix interface and stuff like that. But I can tell you, as the mother of a small child, like what young kids get served on YouTube is still quite a lot of garbage and quite a lot of concerning stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like ads that are, there was a horror movie that my kid was being served recently, and you're like, what? Like,
imperfect for sure.
Yeah, there was two of them.
We could go on, Andy.
I was going to say that I was chatting to somebody that didn't work in TV at all, but they were saying that their kid is allowed to watch TV in their room, but they're not allowed to be on their mobile phone to watch kind of YouTube. So basically they just watch YouTube on the connected TV in their room. And it made me think that that's maybe something that maybe YouTube's leaning into that as people are told to get off their devices, they'll just be on the device they're not being told to get off of.
I'm sure there's a high proportion of parents that still don't quite understand that YouTube is easily accessible on TV. But yeah, but let's talk about Mr. Beast, another YouTuber who's had mixed fortunes making the leap over to TV with Beast Games, which, if you're to believe him, he lost a good chunk of his own cash on, as well as a slug of Amazon's. But again, I think it will build, much like you said about Miss Rachel, Emily. I think it will build. And in a way, I mean, I really enjoyed it. Have you watched it yet? You watched any of it?
I haven't watched it yet.
No. Tell us the broad strokes, Joe.
Well, I mean, it's like a TV format version of Squid Game, done in very Mr. Beast style. I find him and his crew really compelling to watch. There were times when I was laughing out loud. There were times when I was gasping at whether some of the contestants were going to do one over their group and take the money and run. I mean, for the criticisms that I saw about it bringing out the worst in human behavior, we all watch Traitors.
I was about to say, it sounds like Traitors.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed it. I have to say, I really enjoyed it. And
I think it's a very smart branding position for him to say he didn't make any money with it.
Yeah. And I think we were saying this before we went to record. It's something that YouTubers are much more comfortable saying or having acknowledged. Yeah,
and doing. Which is key.
Than the more traditional media industry. They took a punt on him. He put some of his own cash in it. Season 1, he's lost a chunk of cash on, but actually that's almost the YouTuber's shtick, isn't it? We do this, we try, we fail fast, we iterate. That is how he's become the world's most followed YouTuber. And so it makes sense that he would acknowledge that when he's tried to do it with a partner like Amazon.
I wonder whether there's something else in play as well, because the way I read it a bit is that, so you guys all think YouTube is the place where stuff is kind of done cheap and it's not kind of a serious player, but the established media is the kind of the big prize. But I've done a TV show and I've done it for credibility, but not for money, because it doesn't compare to the money that I make on YouTube. It's in some ways it's establishing kind of a pecking order, really.
A hierarchy, yeah. But I do think a lot of it's like, how do I learn? What is the quickest way of learning how to do TV fast? And that's just by doing TV as big as I can, in the way that I think it should work. And I think that's a lot, like I know that he had that leaked memo, the kind of, was it the golden rules of working for
golden
Mr.
rules,
Yeah. And that kind of approach came across very much in what he said there. It's like, like fail fast, go and do it, apologize later, obviously have reasons, you know what I mean? Don't just do whatever for no reason, but like, that is basically what these folks have been doing on YouTube for years. And so like, I think I think that's the way they are. He can afford to lose the capital. He has gained, it's a very expensive master's degree, I guess, in making TV shows, although he will have learned far more than a master's degree. And, can he bring it through to the next thing? I would say it's similar to, we spoke about this last year about Ryan's World. The Ryan's World movie, I think it was like 10 million budget. I can't remember where it ended up at box office, but it wasn't great, but it was like, the scope of what that brand is bringing in and what that creator is bringing in and what he wants to do next and what he wants to learn, particularly with younger people, what they want to try, because if they stop innovating, they're going to stop improving and they're going to get bored. They need to continue to do the things that they're interested in doing. And there's the soft value of that is quite important. If you have 10 million in the case of Ryan, or what is it, 14 million in the case of Mr. Beast to spare. He was more. It's 100 million, wasn't it?
Yeah.
10 million, 100 million. Yeah, well, it's all millions.
But I'd be very surprised if the format wasn't rolled out wider too. I mean, obviously this was very much US based. They built this whole city to host the games. I mean, the set was crazy. It was amazing. But you could see it being transplanted around the world again in the same way as Traitors is, and being shared on various other platforms, Traitors US, Traitors Australia, I've seen popping up on my TV. So I'd be surprised if it doesn't do, kind of wash its face fairly quickly. And also it shows also, or it gives an opportunity for them to remove him as the linchpin of Mr. Beast Enterprises, which is currently raising more investment at a valuation of $5 billion for something that hangs on one individual. So I think this could be the start of slightly more diversification, less hanging just on Jimmy Donaldson. He's obviously got Feastables and the kind of his snack business as well now.
I was reading that he said that he makes more money out of the chocolate brand than out of YouTube.
Yeah, which is no surprise given that now he spends between $3 and $4 million on each video, and he can't really go back. So although he makes a huge amount of money on YouTube, he also spends a lot of money on those videos. But that helps him sell chocolate bars, which he does make money on.
Totally. It feels like it feels like the Amazon show is part of a long game, really. With Ryan's World, I almost felt like the movie was, this might be unfair, but it almost feels like it's a bit of a consolation prize rather than being something that's part of a strategy to build a kind of media empire.
Yeah, I think you got to consider the age groups in it. Like, I think, someone who's grown up from childhood on YouTube, I think it's fair to give them space to go and try a few things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's important, and it's super important. Yeah. So,
and he's not even 25 yet.
I know.
Let's not forget that. Anyways.
Did I ever tell you guys how I miss my calling to be a YouTuber? I'm so old that I used to record videos of for my friends when I was living in Canada, and then I used to burn them onto DVD and post them back. Imagine if I'd started posting those on YouTube.
Totally.
That's like when we used to record ourselves on cassette tapes.
Yeah. I used to do that.
Podcasting back then.
Yeah, same, definitely. Gas.
Anyway, Andy, you wanted to talk about Win or Lose.
Well, yeah, I mean, we were kind of chatting before the show about stuff that we'd been watching and enjoying, and the new Disney Pixar animated series on Disney Plus, Win or Lose, which is the first original series that Pixar has done. I think it's a fantastic series, just a brilliant piece of work. It's sort of got the spirit of Charles Schulz's Peanuts.
Yeah.
It follows the story of Pickle's softball team in the build up to the championships, and you see each episode through the eyes of a specific character, and they range from kids that are playing in the softball team to parents to the umpire. So it's a mix of stories where you're following the story of one of the children in the show, or it might be one of the adult characters. It has a fantastic visual style. The character shapes and designs are very cartoony, but the texturing and the lighting is really cinematic. It's a gorgeous looking series, and the stories and the music choices and the characters. I think it's a really, really smart. I'm loving it. I think it's great. And I think when I watched the first episode, I thought, this is amazing, but I'm not sure who it's made for. But it looks like it's picking up viewers and getting some attention. So yeah, I think it's great. And it's a really ambitious swing by Pixar as well. It's not cynical at all. It's something that they've really gone for this story and told it in a really authentic, original way. I loved it. Thought it was great.
Yeah, it's and a swing to do an original series that's been a while in the making. I know, like the other Pixar-ish series that was there was Monsters at Work, which was
a good few years ago,
knocking around the halls of Disney back when I was there. So that's a while. But then that kind of got Disney Juniorified. I feel like, I don't know, did it get rightly or wrongly? It ended up just kind of like it wasn't pure Pixar. So was that? There may have been reasons behind that, but it's this is Pixar's like their first series, so I think that's an interesting thing. I mean, and like obviously it comes out of kind of a Pixar and are in kind of a vulnerable moment right now.
Yeah. But no, I loved it. I thought it was great. And following on from your point, maybe with the Monsters at Work, I think there's always the expectation where you have a movie studio doing series that they have to kind of age everything down and make it deliver to what they think the expectations of more of a TV audience are. And it doesn't do that.
No, it feels like it's got a broad appeal, and I have only seen the first episode. But it did strike me that it didn't speak down to the audience, and equally it would be enjoyed by, well, actually, it's perfect co-viewing, actually.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's great. I really enjoyed it. Good. How about you guys? What, have you been watching and seen anything recently that caught your eye?
I have entered my Dogman era.
I remember it well.
It's such a good IP, and like, I know it's old. I know it's kind of, I feel like it's new. It's new to me. I feel like it is. It's not old timer in the kind of universe of kids media.
No.
Yeah, we went to see the movie. The movie was like, well done. Maybe had quite a lot of exposition at the start, but you gotta catch audiences up on why this half dog, half man is knocking around the place. Funny. Obviously, it's an extension of the books.
Yeah.
But the most interesting thing I think is, the movie was done by DreamWorks for quite a competitive price, around 40 million, if you believe the numbers, which compares to The Wild Robot at 78 million and Kung Fu Panda, more those kind of established DreamWorks IP would be more close to 100 million. So still less than Pixar's 200 million, but Dogman undercutting that at 40 million, I think is really, really interesting. And the performance has been, like, box office is pretty good for that money. It's not necessarily at this stage up there with other DreamWorks, legacy titles, but I think
a good ROI though, right?
Yeah. And I think, right size when you consider the business that it's driving on books and merchandise. I know Dogman was all over World Book Day recently. I don't know about if you guys noticed that, but everything I saw, Dogman was all over World Book Day, which I think is great.
And interestingly, it featured very heavily on Roblox. There was Sawhorse with Nick, who we've had on the podcast.
Oh yeah.
They developed a Dogman developer module. So rather than go out with a branded experience, which obviously Kung Fu Panda has done, and we've seen it with Beetlejuice, they went out with a developer module, which they then gave to games and developers to integrate into their own games. So much more cost effective, which actually chimes with the budget and the marketing we've just been speaking about, but can be really effective in just exploding that awareness.
Yeah, and that's so perfect for like, that's such a perfect way of approaching it, because you think of Roblox developers, potentially fans of Dogman and the graphic novels there, are going to be sitting there and really interested to get involved. Plus, he's just a funny character. I mean, he kind of, he's signature enough that you know who he is, but he could kind of blend in anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, as a kind of random little IP. So yeah, I think that sounds like a super smart thing to do. And then interested to see what it looks like when it comes to streaming, because that's the whole point of these big swing movies in theatrical, is that the ROI downstream remains and remains and remains, ideally.
And do we know when it will go onto streaming?
Not precisely. Yes, there is. DreamWorks movies tend to have to go to Peacock for a short window. Then they come to Netflix, usually within around a year, I want to say.
Got it.
So maybe by next Christmas would be a great
Christmas,
time
yeah.
to hit, having been on Peacock over the summer or something like that.
Mm.
Assuming that it follows the same
Yeah.
criteria as DreamWorks output deals, because
Yeah.
it being a slightly different budgeted movie, it might not necessarily meet all criteria to have to do that.
Right.
So we'll see.
Encouraging as well, isn't it, that there's that space opening up for medium budget animated movies? Because historically, animated movies have been kind of the preserve of big mega budgets. So it's nice to have that space opening up for more medium sized budgets.
Yeah. Movies like Chicken Hare and the Hamster of Darkness or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Any chance to drop it?
Blast from
that.
the past.
Any
That
chance
in the
to drop it,
conversation.
I'm dropping it.
Good stuff.
So it
Yeah, I
could be
wanna
a
check
Dogman
out.
Christmas for you next Christmas, Emily, if it comes to Netflix. Having seen it in the cinema, comes to Netflix.
I would be good with that.
Yeah?
I'd be good with that. Yeah, it's a nice IP. It's cool. It's funny, and yeah, it's just I would be totally down with that.
I wanted to mention, again, talking about IP on Roblox, that definitely has an effect. SpongeBob. I can't, every time I'm on Roblox, I see SpongeBob now. SpongeBob Tower Defense is the latest experience on there that's doing great guns. But again, SpongeBob has just landed on Netflix with a new movie. Plankton, was it, Andy, you were saying?
Yeah, it looks like that's the new movie that's out. I thought it was out already and looked like it was number one, the number one
It
most
is.
watched movie on Netflix.
It hit Netflix this week. I do not have the numbers on it. Will be around tomorrow. So for the purposes of radio magic, there is none. We're recording before we have the numbers, and I will probably post about the numbers on LinkedIn later this week once we have them. But yeah, the trending signals are good. It's strong creative, as SpongeBob always is, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy. I remember
But
working at
it's
Nickelodeon
sustaining.
ages ago, and I thought, wow, this is an evergreen property, and it just doesn't, it never flags. It's amazing.
Yeah, I find it fascinating. We've spoken before about how Roblox is becoming a part of the kids IP and movie marketers playbook, but it's interesting to see how it's being used differently now rather than just those branded experiences that can be quite expensive and then need maintaining unless you're going to take them down. But these new ways, SpongeBob has a couple of its own branded experiences, but then he pops up with Super Bowl specials and pops up with, in other experiences. And it's definitely, I'd love to do a little bit more digging on how it does support those movie launches then, because no doubt it has an effect.
Yeah, well, this is the second movie launch it's had on Netflix. So it had like Saving Bikini Bottom last year, in August. So it's in 6 months. So, but it feels like this one, the Plankton one feels a bit bigger. I don't know. It's just the Saving Bikini Bottom one seemed a little bit more throwaway. I don't know. Kind of worked better than I thought. And I thought, okay, well, let's try something more on that.
Okay, and so that's it for another episode of the Kids Media Club podcast. I hope you've enjoyed hanging out with us co-hosts today, and please like and subscribe and all of those shenanigans, and we will see you next week. Cheerio.